I have a...
Is it too loud?
Yeah, it's a little bit loud, but I can do this. It's okay, it's okay. I like to be loud and people listen to me. So what is the Blender Foundation? I mean, when I started an open source project in 2002, the foundation goal was simply get 100,000 euros together to buy the rights to make Blender open. That was the main goal. We need an entity for that, a legal entity, so you can have a bank account, and a foundation then in the Netherlands, but it is an international legal entity, means it's a place, a safe place, a legal place where you can put money in, and usually it has a goal which is outside of itself. Societies, for example, they have a goal related to itself. A football society to organize football matches together and stuff like that. Foundations have a goal which is outside of itself. Foundations also have no owners. Nobody owns a foundation. It has a board, and you have to establish it with a number of goals, and you have to stick to those goals. If I, for example, would suddenly change the Blender Foundation goals to make Tom very wealthy on a private island, right? Then you can even go to the Dutch court and sue the foundation board, me, that you can't do that. It's not even possible, because you established it with a certain goal, and that is what you have to stick to. That's what people trust. There's really, the name foundation has this whole meaning of that. The people put, like Greenpeace has probably a foundation, but there's also a Mozilla foundation, there is a free software foundation. So all those foundations are meant to be like a safe, a place with a lock. You put money in it, you put your IP in it, the blender.org domain is in the foundation, the copyrights on source code I've been writing is there. If we hire people to write code, we put the copyright in it. All those kind of things is the foundation. And of course, to get the project organized, which was started later when we had an open source project, suddenly with a website and servers and people to do things and conferences. So all those other activities is what the foundation does too. But you stick to a facilitation role. I had discussions with Mozilla and Perl and Python Foundation, especially about, okay, how do I set up Blender, because I didn't know anything about open source in 2002. And they explained a bit how a normal foundation works. Because the Perl Foundation or the Python Foundation or the Mozilla Foundation, they are not making the software. If you want to work with Mozilla as a community, you go to the community. The foundation is only the facilitator. So that's what the Blender Foundation's role is as well. Blender is being made by blender.org. That's what I usually say. Go online, that's where all the projects are, and that's where the people are who make it. And the foundation, when I have my foundation hat on, is only for make sure that there is a blender.org, and that we have a wiki, and that people are working happily together to make Blender working. But if it's about, can I get a new button in Blender to do something for me, you shouldn't talk to the foundation. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So why would you? I don't like the interface, let's mail the Blender Foundation. That's not working. Yeah, the people did that, yes. They said, Tom, look, Andrew has such an awesome idea, you have to listen to him. I said, well, yeah, tell the developers, go to blender.org, get involved, because that's how our dynamics goes. It's not like, so either people think there's a weird company foundation or something that makes decisions. There might be even people who think that I'm deciding everything. Do people think so? Let's be honest. Yes. Is it? Yeah. I'm absolutely powerless. Absolutely powerless.
We don't think so.
Absolutely. You don't think so? Why don't you think so?
Because you are the God, the spirit of all of this.
Okay, but if a spirit does weird stuff, where do the people go? If I would say, I'm going to work for Autodesk and I'm going to sell all Blender crap to Autodesk and stuff, where is my spirit then? So I don't have that power. The only power I have is to please you or something, right? And when I'm failing in that, you say bye-bye. What? It's not very powerful. I mean, Bill Gates, he's powerful, or not even anymore, right? But or the guys who are running Google, or the Autodesk CEO, they have power. They can really say, that's what we are going to do. The only thing I do have is vision. That's right. I like to do something, and my power is that I can get stuff done. Because that's my talent. I'm not very good at a lot of things, but one thing I can do is I make things happen. So that's fun, right? So that's the only power I have. But I can't do that without you guys. So if you say, nah, that's very interesting, well then maybe I find other people to help, but I rather have this involvement. That's why I'm so happy with the Blender community. It's very diverse, lots of people who want to help, and I really listen. I do have good sense of what people like and what they want, and make sure that we at least feel like a family. Even when we don't agree always on everything, you won't see lots of big arguments or battles or forking like other open source communities have been going through. So that's my role, like the benevolent dictator thing. I mean, I can be you call it, if you have lighting, you have a thing on the roof, and then what's the name of those things? Lighting rod, no?
Keeper of the flame.
So that's a Dutch saying, you have those things on the roof and when you get hit by the lighting, it will make sure that the lighting energy goes into the ground, right? The conductor? Huh? That doesn't sound cool. In Dutch it sounds much cooler. So you can be I can make sure that when there is lots of troubles and energy or things going on, that I can be there and I can accept all of that. I can handle lots of troubles and energy and people complaining and all that stuff. I'm not very sensitive for being insulted or that kind of thing. I'm not Linus Torvald either, so I won't insult other people, but that's my way of doing. But further, if you look at how our projects are running online, developers, Sergey here maybe? No. No? He never listens to me. Never, ever. I always have to fight like hours to get him to do stuff. He's doing his own things. So the best I can do is make sure that his own stuff is somehow moving in a direction where it fits with other stuff. But Campbell is also doing his own stuff. Brecht is also doing his own stuff. Brecht is a little bit more responsible. A little bit. But like the Cycles project is his baby. And I know I have to respect that kind of activities. If people can't put their own things in a project like Blender, where would it go, right? So you have to combine all those interests and energies and make sure it's a little bit aligned and it goes into the same direction. So my role with my foundation hat on was, for example, after we had the web services and a bit of a project system working, to get Elephant Stream done. Because I found out that we were losing focus a bit, and it was like turning into a more technical project where the developers were taking over more than the artists. And Blender has been made in a studio with artists. In the 90s I had an animation studio, and that's how Blender started. And I'm not even a developer. Compared to other developers, I'm a complete nitwit, right? I'm an idiot. I understand a bit of developing, enough to understand when a developer is bullshitting. So that's when they don't bullshit me that easily. They can try, but and at the same level, artists can also start bullshitting. So I can work with artists. It's good to be in this middle, but I'm not a typical developer, and I would hate it if Blender would become a typical developer project, like other open source projects, like most Typo 3 or web stuff, but even the game, Inkscape, name open source projects are usually very developer driven. That's a group of people and they make a program and then you have the users, right? And I always try to make sure that Blender is not really that separated, but we do something together. So we accept really bad code, for example. That artists contributing code to Blender. And that's important. And developers can hate it, right? It's such a horrible piece of crap. Yeah, but it works, right? It works. It works is usually more important than a beautiful architecture and blah 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 blah. So, of course both is important, but that kind of interaction you will find a lot in Blender. Maybe not many people know, but it's a daily practice. So I wrote a...
Oh, your screen's not showing.
Yeah, it's been on for a while.
So, if you go to blender.org, you can see the foundation goals written down. But I thought maybe it's good now to have a more elaborate text, which you could call like the mission statement of what Blender is. First thing, Blender is for artists, right? Clear. There was one person complaining about, yeah, but no, I don't feel invited to use Blender anymore. But it's not exclusive, this is an inclusive statement. It means it's focus. If you make Blender for artists, that doesn't mean that if you are not an artist that you're not gonna use it. But it does mean that we're not making it for non-artists, right? We don't make it for people who clean toilets, or people who make oil rig stuff, or we don't make it for cat design, or we don't make it for name it, right? Artist. What is an artist? Well, there's a number of things you can elaborate. I've been writing about that, but the sentence on the Blender website is we provide individual artists and teams a complete free and open source 3D creation pipeline. Very condensed sentence, but in that sentence you find really all the aspects of what we are doing. And I think that's not something we disagree on, right? It's like, no, sure, that's what we do. And that has a number of implications. You can read the article, not going over everything. The problem with an open source project is that even when we say, well, I want to make this awesome, complicated, beautiful program, when it's open source, it's free. And then people say, yeah, but if it's free, then it's also for me. Like what people on Slashdot are doing. Slashdot hates Blender, but it's being streamed. Yeah, they hate Blender. They can start complaining now, but most of the people on Slashdot, they don't understand that Blender is not for them. But it's Linux, right? It's open source. So why don't you guys make Blender for me? How's the open source community?
What's their complaint? What do they say?
They can't use it. They don't understand it.
Because they're not artists? Or?
They are not artists. They are interested in maybe like using the GIMP for changing the color of a picture, right? So they want to have a 3D tool which is meant for people who want to do sometimes something. Part-time users, or less than that. And that's the problem. Blender is not a part-time project. I mean, even though you could try to make it, but I can't. I can't make a project for every Linux user. Somebody else can. It's open source, right? Why don't you make a program everybody can use for Linux? If you want to, go ahead. But so this kind of contradiction of a quality tool, which is meant to be a production tool for companies, versus an open source tool, which is for everyone, that's sometimes difficult to communicate. The people don't understand it really. Some people think that Blender is meant to be user-friendly, right? Should be user-friendly. And then, of course, user-friendliness has lots of definitions, but the first thing they should understand is go to Pixar or go to any studio or look at what the guys from Pitsy Boy this morning in the talk were showing. They do a Coca-Cola commercial, they do motion tracking, they do rendering, they do rigging, they make many characters, and they have to make this whole pipeline within 3 weeks to deliver something for Coca-Cola. And they didn't have any interface problems. For them it was all about the quality of the technology that's behind it. That's far more important. Real artists, they complain about the dependency graph, about the compositing system that's stupid in many ways, or they talk about sculpting can be 5 times faster, or there's lots of things we also can work on, and I think that's what the meaning is of Blender is for artists. We put emphasis in the quality of the tool for everyone.
Well, if you switch to the other microphone, it will have less interference. This one has a ringing sound. That microphone.
I can better use this one?
Yeah, it's more clear, yeah.
Does this sound better?
Yeah? Yeah.
Good. So the other thing is making Blender, the easy to learn versus easy to use. I mean, you can debate about it. Some people say, well, you can do both, so maybe you can, but I can't do everything. I think let's try to make a choice, what we do first. I mean, are we talking about making Blender for artists? Like we have 250 visitors on this conference. I think that's a nice target group. So let's make software for people who want to be involved or want to be around. There's already such an enormous group, so I want you guys to have a tool you can use easily. Even though you have to learn a little bit, but if you use it easily, you get the benefits. Because what's my belief, using you do the rest of your life, and learning you only have to do once. This tool should be good enough that you only have to learn it once. It will be consistent, it should follow all the beautiful interface design rules you can talk about, but we can accept it to be a little bit complicated. If you want to do fluid simulation and you have no idea about how fluids work, you get a problem, right? Even though we can try to make a one-click fluid solution, which is fun, if you want to make fluids do something, then you will have to work and learn and read about it and do things. It's impossible to try to do both for this. This is another statement I usually do more provocative, because people say, but it's really true. I do get mails or reactions from studios, and they say, look, we've got this whole 50 Maya artists, and we wouldn't mind switching to Blender, but what we then should do is like basically convert Blender to Maya, right? Because so to everything the Maya users are used to and how Maya works, we should copy that in Blender, because Maya is awesome and Blender is not awesome or so. But Blender is free. So somehow in their minds it's like, because Blender is free, we should work for free to make Blender to replace their $50,000 to $100,000 per year licenses or so. So that kind of ideas people really have. They think we should do that. And they talk to me as if I'm responsible for making that happen. To make Blender replace Maya, or to make it replace 3D Max, or name any tool you can fill in. But that's also not how it works. It's the other way around, right? So those studios could get involved. Instead of spending all the money on Autodesk, buy 5 licenses less, and you've saved $25,000 per year, and hire a Blender developer for it to convert Blender in little bit into Maya for your own artists. And that's how we should try to work together. you can't demand me to do that. So I rather work with the Blender users. People who already like Blender are the best people who can tell me how to make Blender better, including talking about the interface. You survive Blender, you know how Blender works, so you have a much higher level of thinking about how a Blender interface could be better than somebody who never used Blender from his own perspective telling me how to make Blender, right? That's a bit weird. So let's stick to the people who already use Blender, and preferably people who are already involved or people who contribute a lot. Let's use them as a reference more than people who think they are awesome but they are not using Blender. Sorry, that's not the people I do my work for. I mean, I also get mails from people from Hollywood, and they say that I was an advisor for blah blah and Autodesk and many companies. They hired me because I know everything about compositing, for example. So I have a proposal. I write you down what you have to do for compositing, and you implement it. And then I will start using Blender, because I can't use Blender now, because the compositing system is not how I want it to be. I said, I'm the best, I know exactly how to do it. And I said, well, why don't you write it down or put it online and get involved? He said, that's a waste of my energy. I will only do it if you make it happen. But this is really how a corporate environment does work. In open source you can't, but in business it does work that way. Because there is, I'm sure, in Autodesk, the Maya department, most of the people got fired already. They hire consultants, and the consultants tell the developers what to do. And probably the marketing department is going to tell the developers what to do, because they have to sell more licenses. That's quite normal to hire consultants to tell what their clients need. But we as an open source project, we don't have to do that. So Blender is really our own software. It's mine, it's yours, it's everybody's. We make it together for ourselves. That's the difference, something to really try to keep in mind. So do we have enough time? I think so, okay. So one of the other things that's driving me as a person and as a designer is that I'm always very skeptical and critical about anything that's standard, conventional, normal, acceptable, anything that's a norm. I immediately put a question mark next to it. But I'm interested to understand why. So why is it a norm? Why is everybody doing this? There must be a reason for it, or maybe not. Maybe it's a very stupid reason why everybody is doing it. And typically it is. Conventions are never smart, they are typically brainless. Maybe it helps mankind surviving, because if you ride at the right side of the road, and you think, why would I can do it on the left side, you can better stick to the right side, because it will keep you safe, right? But there is no reason to do it. You can also drive on the left side, right? And you know, the left side is perfect for driving. It's awesome. Huh? Yes, but yeah, if you go to London or from Europe, they print on every place where you can cross a street, look left, right? Or look right, I forgot. Look left, or look right.
Look left.
Look at the other side, because if you cross the street, and I always look right, but you have to look there. And that's it doesn't get into you. You never think about looking to the right. So it kills probably lots of people in London. Anyway, so that's what a convention means. Anything, you can decide anything to be a convention. People are flexible and you are happy with it anyway. So let's use our own brains. And also, let's look not at the average, but let's look at the top. What are the people doing in Hollywood? So like, how's this Pixar animation tool working? They have some articles and screenshots about it. Is that the best interface in the world? Talk to Pixar animators, talk to DreamWorks animators about their software. Or I know Rhythm and Use Compositing, which is being though that is the most horrible thing in the planet probably, but it works, which is for them far more important than having this totally awesome tool, which maybe doesn't work. You don't know, it might work too, but the first thing artists always want is to have stuff working. There's only one thing, it has to work first. Okay, if I have to click 2 times more than I should be, at least it works. I can do my work. I can make beautiful artwork, and I start complaining, or maybe developers will fix that clicking thing, or I make my own script and fix it, but it works, which is always most important. So what I like to do is always look up to what the best are doing and try to get that into Blender. Hollywood doesn't have to use Blender, but I do want to have what Hollywood is doing in Blender. That's a better thing and more fun to do, which I would like to do better at least. So, development by production is an important theme since 2005, Elephant's Dream. We did Big Bug Bunny, we did a game project, Yo Frankie, we did Sintel, we did Tears of Steel. We're doing a short one, Caminandos at the moment. And there's a gooseberry plant. And for me, those projects are essential. But personally too, because I really like to work with artists. Artists are still much easier to work with than developers. So if you ever work with developers, who works with developers here? Huh? Are they easy and no? Huh? But compared to artists, developers are much more complicated, right?
Why is that?
Why is that? Brecht, maybe you can tell. I'm doing coding too, right? At the moment I can't. I have to go on holidays to do coding, and it's not because I need a rest or something, but the coding activity is very autistic. You have to make your brain empty and clean and clear, and you should not have too many distractions, because to get this code mental thing in your brains, it takes lots of concentration. Young people usually are better in coding than older people, also for that reason, because they can focus and lock themselves off much better. So it's very autistic and individual. That's why open source and internet is such a success, because developers work perfectly together via the web. Even though they like to see each other sometimes to do stuff, but they prefer to be locked up in their own rooms with a computer screen and don't get distracted, and then you can do amazing things. And I know that, and it's really cool to do that, to lock yourself up for a couple of weeks, and then after a while you have this Zen meditation feeling, which is really awesome, and you start coding. That's awesome, it's really cool. But the moment people are coming in, it's gone, right? And artists work the other way. For artists, it's nice to be having people around, even though you would love to work a bit concentrated once in a while, but still, right? It's a nice balance of kicking asses, looking at each other, hey, what you're doing, or I'm getting stuck with things, or this whole creative process is meant to be interactive. That's why you don't see a lot of successful movie projects being done by individuals online. They don't exist. There's not a lot of them. I wouldn't even know if there are even good ones ever made. Artists have to be locked up in one room together, and developers should have their own little cells to work in. So that's why artists are easier to work with, because they are more team animals, they are social animals. Right? And developers are more like cats, right? And artists are more like dogs. So you pat a dog and he starts, oh, can I make a film? I will go to make a film. That's so awesome, right? And the developer is more like, I don't know, it's like how a cat, you have to seduce them, and you have to work like half your life to get a cat doing what you want, right? Cat people know? That's how developers work. Anyway, so this development by production thing is to put artists and developers together, but especially artists have to be put together. Developers can still be partially online, but I want to have artists in my environment, and I want to see them working for days and days and weeks and do something complicated. And I want other developers to see that. I mean, you can design a compositor and make the most beautiful system you think on the world, but give it to a team of artists, let them make a film with it, and you find out it might not be so good as you think it is. So that's the development model I really like to continue. We can at least do that once more, and then I hope we convince our community that we can also have more developers working for studios or as consultants or in small businesses. This is the way I hope we will be growing. This I wrote a little bit for the interface discussion. Can you simply replace the interface with something else? I know there is a software theory, principle, some people think, that defines that an interface should always be separated from the technology, two different things. And that's a good principle, because you can, like if you think of a fluid simulation system, you rather don't want to have the buttons defined inside of that fluid system, right? So you make a fluid system and you make that generic and work really well, and then you try to make an interface for that. That's okay, but there are other systems that don't have that separation so simply, especially when it comes to artists and tools for artists. Think of like a compositor with notes is one thing. Like you've been making all kinds of note tools, but it's all the usability. The whole tool thing is part of a compositor design. You can't separate it. You can't say, oh, let's make a compositing system and an interface. Separate. But if you do both together, you get much, much stronger tools. And same is for sculpting, modeling, video editing, motion tracking. There's so many tools you can think animation. Then if you have a system in mind, animation system, and you have the interaction for artists in mind, and you design that together, your system will be much better. You can't say, oh, I make an animation system, but I don't mind how users will use it. There are people who do that, but then you end up with K3D or some program which might have a beautiful architecture, but it's not usable, doesn't work. So combining this users interface, it's not buttons, interface is everything. And technology is still what I like to see, and at least it is how Blender works, because most of the internal Blender code is interface. It's not, I mean, the buttons of course is a separate thing, but we were not talking about buttons, right? Interface is interaction, it's everywhere. It's like how you move your 3D world around, how you add things, how things relate, where are the drivers, where are the constraints, where are the scenes, how do my animation system solve, how do I get access to it, how can I multi-layer it. But all those questions all have to do with interface. You have to design a system for the users. So simply removing this from Blender and putting something else back is not going to work, really. You cannot do that for Modo or for ZBrush or for Maya, for Max or Cinema 4D. Take all those programs, and usually, and in most cases, the programs are much related to how the programs are related to how the interface works and vice versa. Maya is not something, you can't turn it into ZBrush, and you cannot convert ZBrush into Blender, and you can't convert, name it, SketchUp, you can't make a movie with it. And with all those things, they have designs behind it, that technology, and the way they work is also the way how the interface is. Now this is an aspect we of course we need to communicate much better about, because it's not always clear what developers do or how they work, or like, oh, there's a release, right? It's falling from the sky, or wow, they fixed some bugs and they added new features. And so in the daily practice, it's really a lot of work. There's a lot of people doing things, and they're all humans, and they can fail, they make mistakes, but they do their best. But it's not perfect, right? We have ambitions, so it means we do sometimes too much, or we plan too much, and we can't finish everything. Or a developer is coming with a great idea, but it's not working totally, it's only working half. Well, then all the users are screaming, we want it, we need that feature, it's so awesome, well, add it to Blender. And then, yeah, but if you add it, then you can use it, but not in every possible combination with everything else. And then we say, okay, let's add it, and then suddenly you get bug reports and people complaining because that feature is not working in every situation as you wanted it to be. So how do you solve those things? Yeah, make another release, fix it, move on, let somebody else add some crap. So this dynamics and this way of working is sometimes frustrating, it's unclear, and I can understand it can make people unhappy too, because you don't know, especially if you are not frequently involved, you don't know what in Blender is good, or what in Blender is work in progress, or what parts of Blender are actually bad. But there's crap in Blender too, stuff we need to fix. How do you know, right? You can't see that. We don't have colors in the interface or markers that say, okay, this is good stuff, this table, we support it, and this is the stuff you should use at own risk. Maybe we should do that, but yeah.
There's the experimental features.
Yeah, for example, you could call it experimental, but it's very difficult. Yeah. But it's sometimes it's already like a button called to set some alpha in a node, which has been added to fix something, but it's not a feature to work in general. So what are you doing with that? Because we made some mistake in the past, that we had bad alpha in Blender, which requires a weird button, which does something weird, and then you add that, and then what? Then that button is there. And 2 years later, we have all kinds of weird buttons in the interface that do stuff which was needed 5 years ago, and then if you remove it, it breaks stuff again. So that's how you run into problems. That's why, of course, refreshing Blender is important, and for the 2.7 we can do that, for 2.5 we did that. Kick out old stuff. I mean, Brecht made a nice list of stuff already like 2 years ago, like, okay, there's lots of features in Blender that are old or crappy or badly maintained, and they are actively holding back some of the development, because you have to keep supporting these old things, and for every new thing you'd add, you have to keep everything working which was already in Blender. Like, name for example the stars, like world stars, remember that? That's a feature. It's already, I think I coded it in 93 or something, 92, 93, because we needed star fields, and we didn't have particles, nothing, so, but we needed some spaceship going through something, so I coded some nice star thing to have star generators, and then you could fly. But nowadays you would do that with a little Python script, but the feature is still there in the Blender. So we should go over all those things and say, well, what? It's time to remove those things, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep all those things around. And also, like, people should really, if you want to be a bit involved to understand what the enormous challenges we have, is look at that to-do list. It's not very unreadable. It's quite understandable for power users, people who know Blender, to see all the long list of options we should still do. And that's a lot. That's a lot of work. So having an interface discussion is of course fine, but it adds only more stress to what we already have, and we can already almost not manage what we already do. So how do we handle all of those things? That's a difficult thing. So we should be allowed to do things gradually or with steps, or form a new team, get things solved when we know we can't solve it. It's a human work, so we do our best, but we can't do everything. And of course, what I keep repeating, we should have fun together as well, right? Blender is not that important, that whole Blender thing. It's fun. Because we like to do this. It's fun to do some coding, or some artwork, or to do some training, or to make a film, and to make silly animation, do some work for the client. I mean, all those things give meaning to your life, and we should allow everybody to have that part of the fun in the Blender project, which is far cooler than talking to Autodesk, right? Try to talk to them. I mean, Maya has less users legally than Blender. So what as a Maya user, can you talk to the Maya coders? Complain to them, make new interface proposals, get involved with Maya, right? Become a part of the Maya team. I mean, that's the difference. So we do things differently. That means we cannot simply one-to-one compare us to a Maya or Nuke or Modo. It's different. So sometimes we have to accept that we are less good, or that the quality is not as good as others. Because we have something which is far better than what the Mayas and the Modos and the Nukes have, which is this, right? This whole community and the project. That's unbeatable.
Shouldn't we also try to aspire to be better?
Sorry?
Shouldn't we also aspire to be better? You know, like when you said that we'll never really be as good as Modo or Max or anything like that. But
I aspire to be the best in the world, of course, but I have to accept that it's not. I'm not blind, right? I'm not an idiot. I know Blender has limits and problems, and we can be honest with each other about it. So your aspiration should not be mixed up with your perception, right? So you can say, I want to be the best, doesn't mean I am the best.
oh no, but a desire to want to.
No. I mean, did you ever feel that I'm too humble or something, or not? I don't like challenges enough, or I think I do crazy things, right? People are getting nervous of this open movie I'm announcing. Gooseberry is horrible, ambitious, really ambitious. So I'm getting nervous of it even, so. And are we going to make the best film in the world? Well, I would be happy if we had a film in the end, right? That would be already an enormous achievement. But of course we want to make the best film in the world. But I'm practical, so it doesn't disappoint me if it's a normal good movie too. That's fine, right? But the most thing is that we make it, it's our film, we will have lots of fun making it, and in the end, when it's finished, we move on to the next film. Because there's no dependency, commercial crap, distributors who tell you what to do, marketing departments who follow you for the next 20 years making packaging of stupid animals. It's, we will do it in a nicer and different way. Anyway, so get involved. People know that already. Really, I mean, I've seen great mock-ups. I really like the stuff that has been done. What you did too. It's like the history thing, or better communication of the interface is always important. Sometimes you have no idea what happens if you press a button and then things don't work, and then you are like, what the I know, it's frustrating, but then who do you kick? Who's going to solve that? Where are they? They are coding at the moment, right? So I need more developers. We need definitely more people who understand that, who really understand that if you work with a compositor for like 2 months full time, that there's a number of things getting annoying and on your nerves, really. And you can list it, and you should be able to tell that to a developer, and the developer says and understands it. You can't only have developers that say, okay, I will do what you say, but you need a developer who really gets this usability topic. Which was mentioned yesterday as well. This is a difficult thing. How do you explain as a user what problems are in software? So you need also a developer who can communicate with users and who can analyze and think, yeah, but what you say is not what you want. Which is always difficult. What you actually want is that. And if you do that, then you get, wow, so much more new awesome opportunities. So things will keep working for the rest of your life, right? So that's the... Anyway, so the interface ideas, Jonathan also pointed me to some long, what's the guy's name? A paper, it was more a wiki or a doc, a Google doc.
Yeah, it's a Google doc from like, I think it's about like 8 different people now.
Yeah.
Primarily by, I'm gonna slaughter his name, so apologies. Who's listening?
I've seen lots of nice ideas there, and they're very feasible ones even. It's not like radical turning everything upside down, but it's feasible stuff. I think Brecht might know, or we can make sure Brecht finds out who's going to. Anyway, this was not meant to be the interface discussion, so I tried to explain the focus for the foundation. So the little bit of power I do have is to bring things together, start projects, do something big. The Gooseberry project is a Blender Institute thing. That's the spin-off, the commercial business, which is really my playground. But the foundation, I mean, I have many hats. The foundation says to the institute, go ahead, make a movie. And I'm going to say, wow, awesome, thank you, right? I can use the Blender.org facilities to promote this Gooseberry project. But that's because the Gooseberry project is going to be boosting development and Blender's name and professionalism and everything. So we'll keep that working very well. But further, there is no foundation meetings or decisions or stuff. It's so very fuzzy, but even this mission statement, I think, is quite, maybe some details you could discuss, but the core of that is not that disputable, is it? Now you guys can start talking. What do you think? Like, go back to this whole thing. I mean, there's no problem with that, right?
I want to say something as an artist, because we had a studio in Italy. We had done movies in Maya for years. Last movie is also won the London Festival. But I was saying, I as an artist, I don't see these difficulties in using Blender. I must difficulties in using Blender or learning interface. I watched some tutorial online, even from CD Cookie, and I just start using Blender because I know what I want to do with the program. So about usability, I want to say just one thing. If I had to learn when I was a kid how to draw with pencil, I had to sculpt with clay and with the scalpel, and no one told you how to use a scalpel. A scalpel is a tool that's used only to sculpt the rocks, and there's no way to know how to do it other than do it. Then you learn how you want to do it as an artist. You can create a sculpture, a good sculpture or a bad sculpture, I mean, as your artist reference. But the tool is the tool. So I think that there is a little confusion about people who just want to use a program and doesn't know what they want to do. That is the problem, because I didn't have any problem starting using Blender from, I must say, from 2.6, because I have had some tryings with older versions. I think it was 2.4. And my problem was not the interface at all. Some problem with interface I had at the time, but there were missing tools. there were missing tools for me, for my pipeline. I can't cut faces, I can't do hang-ons for temporarily, so, okay, that was my 2 cents.
Okay, but I tried to explain in this meeting that the foundation is not making Blender. So if you say I need to, so I want to have some things improved in Blender, the foundation's role should be that you can find the people at blender.org where this whole project is going on.
I have no problem finding
And that's, I know, okay, but I know, but it is problematic because there's lots of frustration that people do have ideas, they do want to get involved, but they don't find who. Or they post a patch, a piece of code in our tracker, and it's getting dust for like 2 or 3 years and nobody's looking at it. That is a problem, I know. But that's the problem of any successful tool, because we have 1,000 times more users than people who are making it.
Myself very well, because I was saying I didn't have any problem using it. So even searching solutions, even contacting some other people doing, I don't know if they were developers or not. I used some scripts from other people. Okay, they were already there. I didn't have to search. So I was just making a statement saying I had no problem using Blender interface as formerly Maya user. I made movies with Maya. I didn't do my own things in my own house. I was making movies, and I switched to Blender because I was frustrated of Maya behavior. Okay, so I was saying my difficulties, if I was a normal user, maybe could be I don't know which thing I want to do with the 3D software, which artist thing I want to do with the 3D software. But it's not Blender problem, it's artist problem. Okay, this is an artistic problem. It's not the interface, because if you have to learn how to draw, you have to study how to draw. You cannot pick up a pencil and do Leonardo da Vinci's drawing. Okay, so that was my...
Thank you, Andrew. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for all the dedication you've put in for the last, 20 years or something like that into it, and we wouldn't have Blender today if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much to begin with. But that also leads to the next question, which is, you are so central to Blender, especially Blender Foundation, and I wish you a very long life. But if you were to leave for whatever reason, like Autodesk offered you $1 million,
everything to, you don't have it?
so is there a plan, or is there some kind of succession, so we know that there is a sustainability for Blender for the future?
But that's, I try to become obsolete as much as possible, but I'm failing miserably. This is my problem, it's my fate sometimes. It's like I can't, I mean, even though I move on, I don't do everything. I mean, there's loads of people coding, and not even code anymore. Blender keeps moving on. There's people starting business and training and video tutorials and making books and all that stuff. I don't have to do that anymore. There's people making short film. I don't have to do that anymore. So everything I do is being picked up already, and then I move on, right? So it's not that. If I would be deciding to withdraw myself on a tropical island, I think that everything I was not doing anymore, that will continue. Lots of the development is already mostly self-supporting. I mean, what I do, of course, is be inspiring and making peace and all that kind of stuff. But I know if I wouldn't be there, there might be more difficulties in settling conflicts. Right? Like, if you get this kind of interface discussions, can be poisonous, right? The community can get totally collapsing over those kind of things. It happened a lot in open source communities that people split up and fork and they have all kinds of different ideas. So that's what I contribute still, by being the uniting force. But who's going to do that? Right? I can't say, well, make Brecht do it. You wouldn't like that, I think. I think it's not so. And on the other hand, it's right, the foundation organization could expand. We could have kind of foundation board of people to help organizing conferences for the website and all that kind of work. And I don't know yet how to do that. Or going to conferences. I get invitations to talk about Blender every day almost. And I say no to everybody. No time, right? Why would I go to conferences? I have stuff to do. So every conference visit takes me a week of time to handle. So, but I would love to see more people who feel like, okay, but I don't mind talking about Blender or on behalf of what Blender Foundation goals would be. Or if people say I feel involved enough to speak to audiences about Blender and the philosophy of the Blender organization, please, right? I would like to see that one. Further, I have no answer. Yeah, I try to live a little bit healthy, but yeah, I'm also human, right? Yeah. So yeah, so we have to grow, and I hope it will become an independent, flourishing project where a lot of people can participate in. And another thing is, you probably noticed that the Blender Foundation organization withdraws from areas as quick as possible when it's sustainable. And talk to those guys how good their business is running in training and working with the Blender community and Blender artists and people who want to learn Blender is actually business, right? You can make a good living out of that. And not only those, there's more people already who make a living. So all of those things, I don't want to be in their way. They have to be successful. So we should think of other ways to do things. So I try to do that for everything. So for the Gooseberry project, I will try to find out if studios or teams would be able to adopt or become stakeholder of parts of Blender. And if that would happen, the organization also gets more strong, right? That's what I hope to do.
I know there are some mailing lists about, for example, education and things like that. Is there mailing lists about foundation goals? Or a place to exchange? Not in a way to, but maybe, as you said, it's a place where the community may spot people that are really, how to say, involved and that have the general seeing of what could be a foundation goal in case you don't live 200 years on the yeah, no, but there is no, it's just...
But do you think there would be a need for that?
I don't know, it's a question, just as there is a place where you can exchange for many things, but, and maybe it could solve the problem that some people see you as the one that is so important.
Most people don't know you.
No, they don't know you, but they say, okay, it's done. And maybe if there is a place where, how to say, the objectives of the foundation are discussed, maybe it could change this feeling that some people have that the foundation is done. It's a question.
But in the ideal situation, I want the foundation to be like totally invisible. And if you use Firefox, and what do you know about the Mozilla Foundation, right? But you have some vague idea, okay, the Mozilla Foundation, they are probably good guys protecting the internet and stuff, right? So I can happily browse the internet using, so I hope to have the foundation to be so invisible too. The foundation goals, they didn't change, it's not new stuff. I mean, I've been wording it a bit better in the past decade, but it's still the same goal. Nothing changes. And I'm not going to change it. For as long as I'm there, I like this. And also we'll keep Blender open source. It's a goal. And CPL too. The goal of Blender and to work with Free Software Foundation is a key goal. Only when that's not practical or impossible, I might work on changing it, but I think for the moment, let's stick to that, right? Cycles can be Apache and free, but the Blender core is going to be CPL, and we stick to that. That means no commercial versions of Blender. Too bad, right? We keep it free and open for everybody forever, right? And you can say, yeah, but not everybody agrees on that. Fine, right? But go make your own project. So those kind of foundation goals don't need feedback. It's what makes Blender, right? That's what makes a foundation, because a foundation goal is not even possible to change without having like everybody agreeing on it. Otherwise you can be sued, and that's what
It was more to. It was not to mainly to discuss the foundation goal, but to make you less. I don't know if you are alone. I don't think you are alone, but to make the people feel that you are not alone, but the foundation is a team. It was just in that feeling that more than in discussing the goals.
Well, I'd rather we see that the Blender.org teams become more visible. And it's also the new website should work on that. Like everybody who is involved should be there. And people should see, oh, it's not a town doing everything. There's like dozens of people, real people who are working on Blender, doing things, making documentation or making software or doing website development. That's people, and that's the people you can talk to. Right? That's probably a good thing to do.
Hey, in regards to the again on the goals of Blender and stuff, you said somewhere in there about Blender is for Blender users, and not so much concerned with getting new users. We were sort of talking about this morning over breakfast. You go to SIGGRAPH every year. You go to SIGGRAPH every year. You have a Blender booth and everything like that. That's for marketing, right?
Yeah.
To get more users, or
No.
no?
To scare them away. It's the same thing as to say, I want to be awesome, but I don't think I am. Right? So if you say you want more users, it's not. For me, that's not a good thing to want. I want Blender to be good, and I want it to be a beautiful project and a great product, and that will give us new users. New users are the result of something, but it shouldn't be the goal. But if the goal is empty, what does it mean? Like if you say, for example, you are a political party, so we are. Then you have a goal, right? You say, no, we want to have as much voters as possible. How are we going to get it? Probably political parties are doing that nowadays, right? But that's not how I want to lead my foundation thing or the Blender thing. We do have a goal, we do have a vision. So if we want to have more users, it should be based on following that vision, and not on violating it by saying, well, okay, there's 20 million people we can get user by doing something, let's do that or something. Well, why would you, right? So we have already tens of thousands of active users, we have hundreds of thousands of downloads of Blender every month. If you look at, the demographics of the Blender, paying Blender community, you are living out of it, you make money with it. And you can compare that to what Maya or Max or Modo or other communities would do. And probably you are doing better than the average business who is targeting at this much bigger community of Maya or Max users. So we are doing good, what? So what would it mean if you were the Maya maker to say, we want to have twice as much Maya users. How do we get more users, right? Then you also say, yeah, but why would we want to have more users? We want to have a better product. The product should be good. And we have to look at our current users and at least keep them on board. They are far more important than everybody who's not using. Right? Like what kind of, because the not users of Blender are a much bigger group than the users. So what kind of not users do you want to have on board? The Japanese, Korean non-users? Or no, I want to have students? Or high school girls? Or what? So what it's a difficult, how would you, so why do you make that a point even?
Well, I guess the point is that in listening to the many of the problems you were discussing with the foundation, that there's not enough resources, basically. There's not enough developers to handle this. There's not a community manager. There's not a this. There's not that. But if you compare that to, I mean, I don't know, this is guessing, Firefox or Ubuntu or something like that with a huge user base, they do have positions, they have more funding, they have more support behind them, and they're able to hire, the best programmers to do certain things, etc., etc. So although, having more users is a stupid goal when it sounds on the surface, like let's just get more users, that is a bad idea. But the idea of improving Blender to the way that you would want it to be improved could be achieved by having more users, and therefore you would be able to get more resources to reach that goal. That's it.
But what if we would say, let's target at getting more users in the professional area, people who are working full-time in 3D art, 3D design, animation, film, that kind of things, right? I would like to have more users in that area. And that's a tiny little group. That's what we could target on. I'm fine with that. But that's quite similar to the existing user base anyway. And you can also invert it and say, let's make sure that our current users can become a professional. Let's support them with the business. Blender Network is a support system to make sure that business is going to work. So that will work in both ways, because he's working in a studio. They do film, they do advertising, they do the professional stuff, and he is using Blender, right? So it is possible. So make that visible, because he knows how to do it, and most of the other studios don't. So we should get more of those studios on board as Blender users. So we don't have to change ourselves. It's more like a communication thing, explaining things, and instead of listening to all the studios who are not using Blender, why don't we listen to him? Right? Because he's already here. And he knows his market better than I do, or the studios or people in your position. So you can help us getting more users by becoming happy yourself. Right? So that's how I would like to work. It's not like, oh, we need more users in the film visual effect industry, let's ignore him because he's already a user, and let's talk to all the people who are not using Blender and do what they want. Why would you? What? That doesn't feel good.
Tom, I think at this juncture you can say some words about education. How do you see the whole thing? What is education in your head? How do you think?
Of course education is crucial. It's the most essential thing. But it's, so everybody in the Blender community who is doing education and training already, they have to be involved, and I would like to see them organized better. The disadvantage is not my thing. I'm honest about that. Education, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a trainer really. It doesn't really drive me. I do some training, and after a day or 2 days working with students, you are dead, right? They absorb all your energy, and then you can't do anything anymore. At least that works for me. A real trainer, I've seen them, they get energy, right? They work with students, and they get more out of it. That's for me. I'm getting totally empty in that. When I do the things I like to do, I get more energy from it. So other people have to do training, and they are totally welcome, and I really want to make sure that training works, because open source and training is one thing. It's the most important way for us to get more users as well, to get our training working. Absolutely. Yeah. But, okay.
As you are trying to get some feedback on the foundation, and I'm not really clear in what if I should consider this as being a goal for the foundation or something to do for the foundation, but the roadmap. As a developer, I'm also very interested in what direction is Blender going in, and I was really happy with the roadmap a few months ago about more love to the interactive parts. But for example, I can also see, because if you're trying to get new users, during this conference I hear more that you're trying to get more developers into Blender. And there's still a big gap between what are the artists. To me, I consider developers artists as well. And being Blender going into a more interactive road again could also mean more people start into getting coding. And they become developers and will get an interest into becoming a developer of Blender. So I really need to know more about the roadmap, because it's set out now, but now what? And I don't know where to find it, for example. Well, there has been a goal for 2.8, so there will be some more attention to the game engine, but there's a new term about interactivity, or was it something like that? Yeah. But now, if I read the Sunday meeting notes, they're always very well short term, not long term. So yeah, exactly. But I also need, for me as a developer, I also need to know a more future direction. If that's also interesting for me to dive into the code and start adding patches. So.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why the UI team project is important. That's why I really like people to bookmark all of this on the wiki here. Even though we have a beautiful development area here, building, projects, documentation, contacting. So the main, you have, it's not working. Right. I have to stop in a few minutes, the next talk is going to be. No. Because it has been automatically it's closed, so I can't do anything. So I shut down. Oh, damn! I shut down.
We're receiving it in the streaming pool, but not on the beamer. Yeah, probably because it was the signal for
but hello, what gaat dan praten?
Ik heb hem hier liggen, ik ga gewoon op standby zetten, dan wordt hij automatisch
Well, you go to the wiki, there is contact developers, there's the mailing list. If you look well at that page, there's also the module owners. So there is a diagram on the wiki that shows to you all the individual modules and all the people who are working on it. Okay, so you've got the mailing list, trackers, path, to-do stuff, features, module owners. So here you see the names mostly of the developers And the strategy we have is to get also the artists on board. Some of them have been at it already, like you can find names of Sebastian and Sean, for example, to be part of the clip editor, which is the motion tracking. We've added people for the compositors, artists. So that means that we make little teams of artists who are visible, which you can contact and talk to, and developers to work together on parts and to make decisions. And with those people, we also work on the roadmap. So my talk about the game engine is only a proposal. I mean, the game engine team, which you can find somewhere here in there. Look, this is the game engine team, and they decide. I'm not deciding. I try to give focus, and I come with an idea which I think might work. They are still thinking about it, how to do it. So if you want to be involved, or you want to get influence or be connected, that's the people you should talk to. They are much more important than me. Because I will only do anything or organize anything if I have all those people agreeing with it. The last question, I think, because I think the next session is happening. Okay.
I was wondering about the new tracker and thing Bert was talking about, if it will be visible in there, if people respond to maybe your ticket or your bug or your idea, that they are actually part of a team. I think as a sometimes contributor of bugs or something, it's really nice to see, if you see somebody triaging it or see something happening, that it's somebody who has some kind of authority.
You've seen Brecht showing already the fabricator environment. Yes, you've seen that. So the new tool we are going to use at the project's website. Yeah, so it's far more visible. It's much more easy to see the teams and the people who are there. But we are using a project site from 2006 or something, right? It was when we started up, and now we really have to move to a more advanced system. Yeah. But I think some people might want to have food. I want to have food. Are there still important topics people would like to talk to me about? You can continue, or I will say, nah, let's stop. Let's have some food, or you can give me 5 minutes, then I get a sandwich and I come back. Or shall we stop? I think we stop. I'm still here for 2 days, so you can always grab my ass. Thank you. So, who has stolen my...
I'm not using Mac at all.